Hi, I'm Mike with House on the Mend, and today we're going to be reviewing the Ryobi 18-volt cordless chemical sprayer. So let's get started. Well, spring is here, and with it comes the bugs and the weeds.
Bugs, 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 you know this ain't your home. Weeds, 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 you know you got to go. Bugs, 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 you know this ain't your home. Weeds, 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 you just got to go.
So if you're like me, every spring you head down to the hardware store and you buy one of these pump sprayers, and away you go, treating the weeds and the bugs in your house. And you're forever trying to keep the pressure up by pumping the handles. Several years ago, I built a log cabin, and part of that process is applying an insecticide that keeps boring beetles out of the logs. And for days, I was going up and down scaffolding with one of these and pumping away, and really grew to dislike them very much. So I was excited when I saw this Ryobi battery-powered pump sprayer. Now, I'm not sponsored by Ryobi or anybody else. I purchased this with my own money. So let's unbox it. Let's take a look at all the components, the build quality, and run it through its paces. So the unit comes with an 18-volt lithium battery and its own charger, which is fantastic. If you look here, you can see that it's compatible with most of their other tools. So if you have any existing batteries from Ryobi, this should also work with them. One of the things missing on this battery, which I would have liked to have seen, would be an indicator for how much battery life is left. It was a disappointment not to see it here, especially when you consider that both the Black & Decker battery and the rigid batteries each come with a battery life indicator. These are great. It helps you know how much time you have left using this battery before you need to head into the charger or switch it out. The included charger is a nice little compact design. If you look on the front here, there's several indicators. The first one is if the red light is blinking, then the battery is either too hot or too cold to be charged. If both red and green are blinking, that means that battery is defective and will not charge. When the green light is flashing, that means the battery is in the process of charging. And finally, a solid green means your battery is fully charged. The unit itself feels pretty rugged, and it comes almost completely assembled. The only thing that needs to be done is to attach the wand to the handle itself. And if you look on the handle when you first open it up, it has a whole set of replacement O-rings. And one thing I found really cool is if you go to register.ryobitools.com and you register your chemical sprayer, you receive free seals for life, which is fantastic because when these come up against water and chemicals such as bug spray and herbicides, these rubber gaskets are gonna over time harden and become brittle and break. So it's pretty fantastic that you get free ones for life. Assembly of the unit is very basic. You simply insert the wand into the handle itself all the way down, and then seat this rubber grommet right against the threads. Bring down this nice feeling kind of brass threaded connector here, and tighten it right to that spot. If the unit becomes clogged here at the nozzle, the instructions say you simply take off this top section of fitting, and right in this little hole here, you can put a wire going through that to clean out any debris that may start to clog the unit, and then run water through there. If you look at the tip here, it appears that the material is coming out of those holes, then making its way up through these little slits, and then coming out of the sprayer. So there's no screen here that's going to get clogged or broken or have to be cleaned out. So that's pretty cool. I'm interested to see how that works over time. Similar to most chemical sprayers, the trigger on the handle has a locking feature. So you simply push down and forward to lock it into position, and it'll continue to spray until you pull it back and release. That way you're not worried about getting any kind of hand fatigue by holding down the trigger while you're doing long periods of spraying. Another nice design feature is integral to the handle. The wand handle can be inserted and clipped right into place, so you can carry it like that and very comfortably use the unit as a single piece. There's also spots here and here to put a strap on if you wanted. One thing I will say though is if the handle is removed, which is not uncommon to carry it with one hand and be able to work a little bit more freely with the wand with the other, this section here isn't really that comfortable with the hand. It's kind of sharp edges around here, so I wish that would have been a little bit more comfortable. It's clearly going to be more comfortable and convenient to have it connected, but nonetheless you have both options, which is pretty cool. The tank here has markings for gallons and liters. I'll have to say they're very faint though. You can barely make them out, and I think if you were in full sun or in deeper shade than we're at here, it might be really hard to read, but nonetheless there are some markings there. The measuring cup simply unscrews, and you can measure out the chemical amount that goes in based on the amount of water that it's to be mixed with. I found the instructions to be really easy to understand. They were clearly laid out, lots of figures and drawings in the beginning, and then it gets into the warnings and then the assembly and use and cleaning instructions, just like most manuals. One thing I did like is they didn't combine all of the available languages that they include in the manual on each page, where you have to hunt through each section to find the language that you wish to read. They're clearly delineated. So the first section is English, second section starts out, looks like French, and then so on. On the last page of the manual, right before the little notes section, on the very, very bottom, is a note that states that the product has a 3-year warranty for personal, family, or household use. It's only 90 days, however, for business or commercial use. So clearly, we can assume from this text, this product is meant for light home use and not heavy commercial use. All right. Now check this out. This is a radiator funnel. It's got a wider mouth on it, and a lot of times things can't fit that wider mouth when you're filling, so you have to go to a smaller end of the funnel to put in openings such as that. But in this case, Ryobi made a nice big opening, so you can get even a radiator funnel in there. That probably sounds pretty nerdy, but it was cool for me that you get that higher pour rate by being able to use a bigger funnel. All right, that brings us back up to about 3/4 of a tank. Put that back on, and let's get our tube right back in there, set in place, and clamp it up. All right. Battery back in, little pit stop, we're ready to go. So we've been using this for a while. We're already down to 1/4 of a gallon, and I notice it's got a very low kind of hum to it, not unpleasant, not screeching, nothing uncomfortable. You could certainly put headphones on and just listen to music while you're going. So now it's time to do a little refill. I did notice that the hose that goes down into the tank, every so often, as I got below about a half, every so often it was losing flow if I turned the tank one way or the other. It's kind of to be expected, but we're not even below a quarter tank here, and we're already getting that kind of bubbly or jumpy missing of the fill tube. So we're going to take this moment here and fill it up. All right, sprayer performed great with this bug spray. Now we're going to switch over to Roundup and try to take care of some of those weeds. And one thing I noticed about this is it's a lot thicker. It's in between water and syrupy, you know. So I'll be curious to see how the pump handles something a little bit thicker in its viscosity. So let's go try it out. On real rocky ground like this, that weed spray is very effective. But on softer ground like we have here, I prefer to remove those weeds by hand with a hoe. It's a lot less chemicals that I'm coming in contact with, that the environment's coming in contact with, and an herbicide can overspray onto existing plants and cause damage to them too. So never be afraid to break out a good sharp hoe and just get the work done yourself. Here we go. Look how quick. All right, not bad. All right, we're done for the day. Now it's time to clean it up. The instructions are pretty simple. As always, you remove the battery first. I've been noticing that's been getting harder. And then take off the clasps. First thing you do is wash the tank out. You can use mild soapy water if you want, otherwise just run clean water through it. And then run 1 or 2 full tanks of water through the sprayer. And that should rinse out everything along the line. While we're doing that, check this out. Right here on the box it says sprays up to 30 gallons per charge. Could that be true? Let's put it to the test while we're rinsing it. Okay, I rinsed out the tank pretty well. It's got fresh water in it all the way to the top. And I got the battery installed. I'm out in an area away from any of the plants or grass because there's still going to be some weed killer in this line while we're rinsing it out. And there's no need hurting any of our plants or grass. So we went through about 3 gallons when you consider the bug spray and the weed killer today. So let's see how many more we've got in us here. Bubbles. Still going. I'm having to bump the ISO up to 1600 just to get enough light for this shot. It's a lot cooler in here. All right, let's finish up. So when I originally approached this video on the Ryobi chemical sprayer, it was from the standpoint of being pretty loyal to the brand of rigid power tools. Early on, about 10-15 years ago, I had seen some of Ryobi's benchtop power tools, a scroll saw, a drill press, and a bandsaw that my brother-in-law had in his garage, and I wasn't too impressed with the quality, and I hadn't really thought about them since then. But if you start walking through Home Depot, you'll notice rigid power tools aren't really innovating They're pretty much sticking to the tools they already have and concentrating on better battery and sleeker designs, but not really branching out into a lot of new products. And that was my mindset when I came to this review. And overall, I've been very impressed. So much so that I went out and purchased another item made by Ryobi that wasn't available by Rigid, and I'm going to give that a try in a later video. Let's get to the pros and cons of the Ryobi 18 volt cordless chemical sprayer. First, the pros. Battery life. You can see from the video, I gave about 20 run-throughs of the tank with this battery, and it never even started to falter. I quit at 20 because it was quite a bit of work to fill it up with water, let it spray, and then go back out there in 5 or 10 minutes because I didn't want it to run out of water and start burning out the motor. So it was a lot of back and forth, and I had been spraying with it all day and doing this review video, so I quit around 20, but let's just say they're probably right. This one charge does really well. And like you saw in the video, the sprayer had absolutely no problem with the thicker herbicide that I ran through it. I originally talked about how the wand was integral to the handle or could be removed, and I thought the edges were kind of sharp and they might bother you as you separate them to use the tool. But I did most of my spraying with the wand separate from that handle and holding one in each hand. And I didn't have any issues with being uncomfortable from the sharpness like I thought I might. And finally, and biggest of all, of course, no pumping. You don't have to pump to pressurize. The motor takes care of that for you, which is just such a pleasure. Now on to the cons. Right back to the battery. Like I said earlier, there's no battery life indicator on the battery. In fact, when I looked at Home Depot, you have to pay $89 for one battery to get the battery life indicator. It's probably a lot more powerful than this one with a little bit more amperage hours, but nonetheless, $89 just to get that. So that was kind of a disappointment, as I've talked about already. Secondly, about the battery though, is this stem right here. I like to take my batteries in from the garage and I stack them in our laundry room, which comes right off the garage, because I don't like my batteries to be exposed to extreme heat or freezing temperatures, and we get both here in Las Vegas. So I have this one little cabinet where there aren't a lot of laundry supplies that I can stack up my various batteries. And as you can see here, the rigid batteries stack up really nice. And there would be no way to do that with this stem coming off of the Ryobi battery. And there's nothing they can do about that because the contacts are up here, so they've married themselves to this battery style for all their current power tools. And so that was one negative for me, is battery storage. Maybe you could stagger them back and forth. I did see a charger that they have where it's kind of like a triangular cube that you could place them into, but I'm not really sure how I would work it out if I switched to all these type of batteries. I like the flat batteries that can just be easily stacked. It's pretty nice. And also, like I had mentioned earlier in the video, the markings on the tank were so hard to see that I actually came up with a little solution so I could read them. And that was to take a blue Sharpie and draw a little square at each marking point, and then I lightly sanded the numbers to reveal the white, and that gave it some contrast so that I could see it in brighter or darker situations. As I mentioned in the video, when the tank gets down to about a quarter, the tube starts to sputter, and that might just be from adjusting it one way or the other as you're walking along, but I still thought at a quarter tank it was a little bit premature to be sputtering like it's at the end of a milkshake with your straw down at the bottom and you're getting that kind of sound going on. I did have one issue with the hose and the fitting on the front of the tank. At one point when I was spraying around the backyard, I did bump that fitting into my daughter's softball net, and it managed to yank that fitting off and it started spraying the bug spray everywhere. It was an easy fix. I just screwed it right back on. Nothing was broken. And to be fair, that probably would have happened with any kind of sprayer. But it was an issue and I wanted to bring it to your attention. So in conclusion, if you came to YouTube looking for a video to help you with your purchasing decision, after doing the tests that I've showcased here, I would have no problem recommending this chemical sprayer for home use. If you like this video, will you please give it a thumbs up? It really helps me out. And lastly, since I've had this chemical sprayer a relatively short amount of time, I would really love some comments below from some users with long-term experience with this chemical sprayer. Let us know in the comments below how it's performed for you, and I think that'd be a big benefit to everyone. Until next time, thank you for watching. Really? I gotta get to bed. Can you give up already?